Last week, we started our unit on weather. Today, we're going to read a poem from our big book about weather. This is the front cover, the back cover, and the title. The title of this book is What's the Weather? And this is the spine. Remember, this big book is special because it doesn't have just one story. It has a whole bunch of different stories. And not only that, but it even has some poems. When I open it up, I see the title page. That's just to remind you of the title in case you forgot. And when I turn the page again, I see a special place called the Table of Contents. The Table of Contents tells you where to find things. Our poem for today is a secret. And when I move my finger across the page, I see it's on page 20. So I'm going to go ahead and turn to page 20, and there it is, our secret poem. Under this piece of paper is the title, and this is the author. The author writes the words, and the author of a poem is called a poet. Now remember, a poem is made up of some different parts. Sentences are sometimes broken into parts, and each part is on a line of its own. Words that rhyme are often used. And some words may be repeated or said more than once. Before we start, there's some important words and phrases you will need to know so you can visualize or make an image in your brain and figure out the riddle of today's poem. Now, these are polka dots. Think about other places where you have seen polka dots. I know you've seen polka dots in some of my backgrounds. It's just a whole bunch of little circles. Now, the next thing you need to know is gutter. A gutter is used to carry water away from the street and into the drains. Gutters keep the streets from getting too full of water because if our streets are full of water, well, that's not very safe. The last word you need to know is earth. You'll notice I wrote it twice. When I use an uppercase E, that means it's the planet we live on. The Earth. We live on Earth. But if I write it with a lowercase e, that changes the meaning and it means the ground or the dirt. I might say, I dug up the earth. I put my hands in the earth. I planted some plants in the earth. Now, remember, the title of this poem is a secret, and I will only reveal it to you after we read the poem. Before we read, let's make some observations. What do you notice about the pictures on this page? Well, remember, because this is a real photograph, there's no illustrator because no one drew the pictures. They just used a real photo. What do you notice about that photo? You might say, it looks kind of blurry. And it's kind of dark. Maybe it's nighttime? It looks like maybe this is a place with a lot of lights and it's probably outside. What do you notice about the street? Does it look wet or dry? You're right. It looks kind of wet. We made a whole bunch of great observations. Let's read our poem. And when we read our poem, the essential question I want you to think about is, what happens when rain falls to the earth? And don't forget, your job is to try and figure out the answer to the riddle. And whenever we read, we go from left to right, top to bottom. This is the first word and the last word. Our comprehension strategy for today is visualizing. Good readers visualize to help them picture what the poet is describing. We can use our own experiences in addition to all our senses to help us visualize. We can also think about what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. All right, let's read our poem. I polka dot the window. Wow, that's a fun image I have in my mind. I see little dots in a neat pattern all over the window. Let's keep reading. I polka dot the window, I shine the blackened street. I make a mirror of the walk and steam the summer heat. I run along the gutter. I give the grass a drink. Now I'm thinking about a cool glass of water, and it tastes so refreshing, and now I'm imagining the cool water dripping into the grass and the grass feeling cool and wet. I imagine the grass feels refreshed, just like I do when I drink a glass of water. Let's read again. I splash in lakes and rivers, and into earth I sink. Now, let's talk about how the author used the characteristics of a riddle to make the poem more interesting and thought-provoking. That just means it makes you think. Remember, when we look at an author's writing strategies, we can understand the poem better and use those same strategies in our own writing to be better writers. In this poem, the poet described the subject without saying what it is. What do you think the title should be? What is it that the poet described? I polka dot the window, I shine the blackened street. I make a mirror of the walk and steam the summer heat. I run along the gutter, I give the grass a drink. I splash in lakes and rivers, and into earth I sink. Well, what is this poem about? Did you figure it out? Did you say, the rain? Because if you did, you're right. This poem is called The Rain. If you didn't guess that, but you knew it had something to do with water, great job, friends. Now, poets also use rhyming words. Did you hear any rhyming words when we read our poem? Let's look again. Which words rhyme? Is it window, street? No. What about street, heat? Yes, they both end in eat. Okay, what about gutter, drink? No. What about drink, sink? Yes, drink and sink both end in ink. That sure was a fun riddle in today's poem. I really enjoyed reading The Rain with you today. I can't wait to talk more about it in our pods. Were you able to figure out the riddle? What clues did you use? And what sights, smells, feelings, sounds, or tastes did you think about as we read the poem? Do your best to hold all those important ideas in your brain, and I'll see you later.